For a lot of NFL fans, right now it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time because your team is pushing and vying for that Super Bowl championship, winning your division title, going to the AFC or NFC championship. But for a lot of us out there, our teams, it's over. It is over and gone, done. It is finito. No shot for my Dallas Cowboys to make the 2024 NFL playoffs, but I can look forward to the upcoming rookie draft class here in 2025. And yes, this is my mock draft 1.0, picks 1 through 32, going through each team, talking about their biggest team needs, using an article that was just dropped over on Bleacher Report, addressing every team's needs going into week 12. We'll talk about that. We'll make the selection. There might be a few trades that we discuss. So what I need y'all to do, you know your team better than I do. We don't know every single player yet in this class, which ones may declare. We're going to use a little bit of information from a couple of various sources, and we are going to try to fix your squad. So as you watch, if you think, Ray, we need a receiver, we need a tackle, we need an interior offensive lineman, let me know in the comments. And if you stick around to the end of the video and you find this information actionable and or entertaining, I ask you to do one thing, baby. Subscribe, help the channel grow. 2025 NFL Mock Draft 1.0 rookie season. That's what we do. I'm glad you're tapped in. Glad you're here on the channel. 2025 Mock 1.0. Let's get it. '25 mock draft time. Remember, what we're going to do is we're using the article addressing the top 5 needs for each one of these teams. We're going to look at the players, make the selection, and comment and chat below about it. We're going to start this thing off at number 1. The team right now picking at the top, the Jacksonville Jaguars, finding themselves back at the top of the potential NFL draft reigns right here. And that's a good thing for Jacksonville, I guess, because they get an opportunity to get a dynamic player out of Colorado. Their team needs defensive tackle, cornerback, safety, tight end, and wide receiver. I think there's a player here in this class that can serve maybe 2 of these 5 needs in some way, shape, or form. Let's pull up the PFF mock draft simulator and talk about the selection choices for the Jags here. Honestly, folks, I don't know how much of a discussion this is. If the Jags are going to keep this pick here at number 1, there's one selection and one selection only. It's the best player in college football, which is Travis Hunter. There are going to be a lot of teams wanting this number 1 overall pick for Hunter, for Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, or one of the quarterbacks. But for the sake of this mock, knowing that the Jags need a lot of different pieces, they locked up Tyson Campbell, they are not going to pass on, I don't want to call him a generational talent, but maybe he is. Travis Hunter, 101, heading down to Duval County, taking his talents to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are probably going to have a brand new head coach as well. And when you just think about that team having Hunter alongside Tyson Campbell defensively, we don't need him to play full-time wide receiver. You drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round last year. What I would be most excited about as a Jags fan are these two going at it in practice. Iron sharpens iron. BTJ versus Travis Hunter, Christian Kirk, veteran presence there with Evan Ingram. You've got a rushing attack with Etienne and Bigsby. Solidify that defense. Travis Hunter, 101 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There we go. Now, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock at pick 2, and they need a defensive tackle. They need an offensive tackle, a tight end, QB, and they need a wide receiver to complement Calvin Ridley. This is a spot right here at pick 2 where the Titans need so much. And I know Titans fans, they want a quarterback. We need a QB. Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, those guys aren't it. That offensive line, if you don't improve that, it doesn't matter who you have back there. It's not going to end well. Their right tackle constantly getting replaced and getting your quarterback killed. They've got to upgrade that O-line position in Tennessee. Looking at the board, I think this is a prime trade back spot for the Tennessee Titans. I think this is a spot where they absolutely are going to look for or potentially look for acquiring some more capital, getting some more assets. And I think the team that they would do this with would be the New York Giants. They've already benched Daniel Jones. We know they need a quarterback, offensive line help, defensive help. They hit a couple of nice Tyler Nubin and Andrew Phillips, the 2 defensive backs in the draft last year. They've got to improve that offensive side of the ball. You got Malik Neighbors in the building. I think this is a spot where the Giants trade. So let's make a trade. Let's make a trade, not with the Panthers. Giants, y'all are going to come up from 4. They don't want to sit and wait. They don't want to get squeezed out of Shedeur Sanders. They don't want to be squeezed out of Cam Ward. They want to go get their quarterback of choice. And in my opinion, there's no more quarterback, prime time, ready for it, than Shedeur Sanders. So how do the Giants do that? Well, they've got to give up 4. They're probably going to have to give up 36. Tennessee's going to give up 2. They'll kick back Seattle's pick that they have. The Giants are going to have to give up a future pick. They're going to give up a future first, and in return, they get a 2026 third. So that's the deal. Giants are going to move from 4 to 2. They're going to give up 36, a future first. Titans are going to give the Giants in return a third-round pick next year and pick 117 from Seattle. We're going to offer that, see if it gets done. It does. The Giants are on the clock, and they make this very, very simple. They are going to select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. So you've got Travis Hunter. Colorado goes 1 and 2. Hunter goes number 1 to the Jaguars. Shedeur Sanders takes his talents to the Big Apple in New York. Now you've got Shedeur Sanders throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy running it, and that leaves Cleveland on the clock here at pick 3. Now, looking at the team needs from the Browns, we know they need a damn quarterback. Deshaun Watson, that was a failure. They traded Amari Cooper, need one of those. Tackle, linebacker, JOK, potentially might not play football again, and they need a defensive tackle. They need some defensive line help. They let Z Smith go. Get some help. So where are the Cleveland Browns going to go right now? Y'all know what they got to do. You got to get a quarterback. No Shedeur Sanders, no Travis Hunter. Next up, Cam Ward out of Miami. So we got the board pulled up. Yeah, a couple of teams are calling. We're listening. But you know what? Deshaun Watson ain't working out. We want to get Cam Ward, our quarterback of the future out of Miami. The Cleveland Browns select Cam Ward. So QBs go back-to-back at pick 2 and 3, leaving the Tennessee Titans on the clock at pick 4. And Titans fans probably hate me right now. Damn it, Ray. You made us pass on Shedeur Sanders. You made us pass on Cam Ward. Well, you got additional picks in the 3rd round. You got a high 2nd-round pick. You got a 1st-round pick next year. This is a rebuilding team. This is not a team that is built to win today, tomorrow. So stack capital, stack assets. And when you look at what the Tennessee Titans need, offensive line is one of their big things. We talked about how bad their right tackles are. Go ahead and upgrade that position and make sure that whatever quarterback you bring in, they're protected for the future. I know it hasn't been the type of season for Will Campbell as it was last year, but he's still a really good tackle prospect out of LSU. They got 2 cats. You got a couple of cats out of Texas as well. But for this one, they do draft Will Campbell out of LSU to be one of their bookend tackles of the future, which leaves the Las Vegas Raiders here up at pick 5. And we too know that they need a quarterback. But what else do the Raiders need? Let's take a look. Raiders, they could use a quarterback. They need a receiver too. Let Devontae Adams go to New York. Cornerback is something that they can invest in. Edge rusher and defensive tackle. Now, they did bring in Christian Wilkins, but he got hurt. You've got Mad Max Crosby on one side. Defensive back, edge rusher makes a ton of sense for the Raiders right here. I know that this player has been banged up this season, has been hurt, but make no mistake about it. When Will Johnson is on the field, Will Johnson, I love Travis Hunter, but the technical skills that Will Johnson possesses, he's second to none as well. So the Raiders, not having a chance to pick their quarterback of the future, they opt for a very, very pressing need on the defensive side of the ball. Will Johnson, a technician. Love his game. Will Johnson, you are a Las Vegas Raider. At pick 6, the New England Patriots are on the clock, and they hit a home run last year with Drake May. You got Christian Gonzalez a few years ago. What do the Pats need right now here going into 2025? Well, it's not a complicated thing to kind of think about what they need. You got to protect your damn rookie quarterback. You got to protect your young quarterback in Drake May. He'll be a second-year player at that point. Upgrade the offensive line. Team needs tackle, interior offensive line. They need edge rusher. They need wide receiver. They need defensive tackle in New England. They need a lot, but you have to protect Drake May or give him an option to throw to on the outside. Now, there were a lot of rumors and smoke about New England being very interested in T. Higgins last year, and the Bengals essentially are probably going to let T. Higgins walk here after this season. So T. Higgins coming to New England would be a massive upgrade over any of the rookie wide receivers. So let's think about what New England can do to help protect their young quarterback. And there's an offensive tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks, I think would make a really good fit here in New England. Let's protect Drake May. I know fantasy football enthusiasts want to see Ted McMillan or Luther Burden. Do it right. You got a young quarterback that can deal. There are a lot of receivers that we can draft in round 2 or round 3. This is not the Bill Belichick regime. Let's opt for tackle. Let's protect Drake May, Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Solid pick for New England here at pick 6, which leave the Jets on the clock at pick 7. And honestly, I have no idea where the Jets want to go, what they're going to do with their quarterback position, but let's take a look at some of the team needs for the Jets. Jets need a safety, a defensive tackle, a tight end, an edge rusher, and a cornerback. It would have been great to see Will Johnson fall to the Jets right here, pair him up with Sauce Gardner. You do have Abdul Carter that can fit that need for an edge rusher, tight ends. Very, very good tight end class here in 2025. D tackle is loaded, and there are some very damn good safeties in this class, but too high right now to pick a safety. We can't go safety. A little too high for the tight end position. I think I'm looking at edge rusher and defensive tackle, and we got just the player for the Jets. Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, is sitting right here for the Jets. This is a trade that I thought about the Jets actually trading up with Tennessee at 4, maybe trading up with the Raiders at 5, thinking they might take this defensive tackle, Mason Graham. But look at that. Falls right to the New York Jets. You pair him up with Quinn Williams on that defensive line. Got to get some more pressure. Let's get the Jets defense back to playing Jets defense. Mason Graham coming off the board for the Jets right here at pick 7, which leaves the Carolina Panthers in a great spot. And I love this pick for the Carolina Panthers. They got multiple options. They got Ted McMillan, Abdul Carter. You got Luther Burden, Nick Scoutron out of Texas A&M. Where are the Panthers going to go? Who also may need a quarterback, but you see Jalen Milroe there. Doubt they're going to take an Alabama quarterback again. 2 Alabama QBs in the last 3 years. But I love what they could potentially get on the defensive line. Let's look at some of Carolina's team needs quickly. Carolina, they need an edge rusher, a quarterback, a D tackle, another receiver. I don't think they need a tight end. I think they found their tight end, but I can agree with the first 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these, especially losing Brian Burns and the season-ending injury that Derek Brown suffered. You got to upgrade that defensive front. And again, for Carolina, this has broken very well for Carolina Panthers fans. Because when we look at the board, I would have loved for Abdul Carter to potentially fall to my Dallas Cowboys. But here he is, Abdul Carter, 89.8 overall grade according to PFF this year, 91.1 pass rush grade, true pass set pass rush grade, 91.4. This player is incredible. 24 hurries on the season, 8 sacks, 4 hits. Abdul Carter playing all over the place, can defend the run and get after the quarterback. With the Panthers losing Brian Burns or essentially trading him to the Giants, this is a great pick. Love it. Abdul Carter, the Carolina Panthers, and makes the Cowboys fans cry because I would have 100% selected him if he were on the board for Dallas. And now it's time to go to my hometown, Dallas Cowboys. And they need every damn thing. And I mean everything. If it's a defensive player, the Dallas Cowboys need him. Cornerback, D tackle, linebacker, edge rusher. They need a second wide receiver. And I see a lot of mock drafts having them select Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State in the first round. Jeanty is incredible. Best running back prospect, I believe, that we're getting in the draft since Saquon Barkley. But Dallas, they have so many holes to fill that I think that taking even this caliber of running back this high would be a grave mistake for the Dallas Cowboys. For those of y'all that don't know, this RB class is loaded. Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Johnson, Woody Marks, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, Nicholas Singleton, Travion Henderson. The list goes on and on and on. I guarantee you all, your team will draft a running back round 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 that make significant impact in the NFL, even if they're not a top 10 pick like Ashton Jeanty is projected to do. So we are not going to give the Dallas Cowboys a running back in this mock. Not today. When you look at the board and think about the team needs that we just discussed for Dallas, wide receiver, a big, big need for the Dallas Cowboys. There's nobody. When you're throwing the ball to Kevontae Turpin and you're trying to get Ryan Flournoy and Jonathan Brooks or Jordan Brooks, whatever his name is, trying to get him the ball, that is a problem. That is a problem. Jake Ferguson is doing everything he can, but CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott need help. And for the Cowboys to have the potential to land Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona right here at pick 9, I'm taking Tet over a running back 10 out of 10 times. This running back class is loaded. McMillan back-to-back 84-plus PFF overall grade seasons. He's got 105 targets, 1,133 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's after having almost 1,400 as a sophomore and 702 yards as a true freshman. At 6'5", 215 pounds, He is a prototypical outside wide receiver that is going to complement CeeDee Lamb in the best possible way. At pick 9, I know the Cowboys need a running back. No, they need interior defensive line help as well as linebackers, but we are not drafting those guys this high. Tetairoa McMillan, you are a Dallas Cowboy, and that will help improve that offense and this team. The New Orleans Saints are on the clock. We take a look at some of the team needs for the Saints. Center, defensive tackle, cornerback, an offensive tackle, and a QB. Derek Carr getting up there, and probably not a lot left in there with Jay Kaner and Spencer Rattler. So let's pull up the board and see where the Saints could go. Can we get New Orleans some O-line help? Can we get the New Orleans Saints some offensive line help? They were decimated going into the season up front, and it's been difficult for them to get a lot of things going. They re-signed Alvin Kamara, so you know they want him back. Chris Olave out with the concussions. Rashid Shaheed banged up. They need a lot. They need a tight end as well. They need a guard. So at this spot, I think getting one of the best available tackles in Josh Simmons out of Ohio State makes a lot of sense for New Orleans. It may not be a sexy pick. It may not be a fun pick, but this is probably a need-based pick for the New Orleans Saints, knowing that they've got to improve that offensive line. So the Saints round out the top 10 picks, and let's rattle those bad boys off. Travis Hunter goes number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shedeur Sanders is a Giant with a trade with Tennessee. The Giants moved up from 4 to 2 to snag Sanders. Cam Ward goes pick 3 to the Cleveland Browns. Will Campbell, tackle out of LSU, goes 4th overall to the Tennessee Titans. Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, lands with the Las Vegas Raiders. Kelvin Banks, the tackle out of Texas, goes to the New England Patriots at 6. Mason Graham, D-tackle from Michigan, goes to the Jets at pick 7. Abdul Carter, the explosive edge rusher, goes to the Carolina Panthers at pick 8. You also have Tet McMillan, the big play wide receiver out of Arizona, going to Big D in Dallas at pick 9. And Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from the Ohio State Buckeyes, going number 10 to the New Orleans Saints. So now we turn our attention to the best 4-7 team that I've ever seen in my life. I'm at the leading passer, receiver, sack leader. Cincinnati Bengals got all this stuff cooking for them, but yet they're 4-7. You look at their team needs: cornerback, defensive tackle, edge rusher, linebacker, and interior O-line. Defense for the Cincinnati Bengals makes a lot of sense. That's what they need right now. This is a spot here where I think there are so many directions Cincinnati can go. I love Ben Morrison out of Notre Dame, young cornerback, 6 foot, about 190 pounds. I don't know why PFF has James Pierce out of Tennessee rated so low, 34th on their board. But when you look at what Pierce is doing this season, 36 hurries, his pressure rate, elite right now in college football, 6 sacks. He can play on the outside. This is what you want, affecting and getting after the quarterback. I think James Pierce would make a nice fit in Cincinnati. So right here at 11, the Bengals go to Tennessee and select James Pierce, edge rusher, to upgrade that defensive line, which leads to Miami on the clock here at pick 12. So let's see what those Miami Dolphins need. Interior offensive line. They need a defensive tackle. They need another receiver, a tight end, and potentially a QB. We saw how bad things were for Miami once Tua went down with a concussion. If Mike McDaniel survives, he cannot do that again. You cannot be that putrid with your starting quarterback off of the field, but they can't take a quarterback this early. Jonnu Smith is playing well enough, and they do have 2, 3, 4 wide receivers that we feel okay about right now to not have to prioritize that in round 1. So where will the Miami Dolphins go? Well, let's pull up the board and see what's cooking for Miami and what we can do to help these Miami Dolphins be better here in 2025. We've got to get some protection for Tua. You've got to keep him upright. There aren't, from what I've heard and read, you don't go interior offensive line early in this class. This is going to be the class where you get a lot of these cats probably in round 2, round 3. So let's stick with the offensive tackle position because there's still some nice quality players here. This kid out of Minnesota, you just look at his grades over the past 2 years, only giving up 3 sacks over the past 2 years. And this is a big kid, 6'6", 330 pounds. You got Cam Williams out of Texas, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Those are some common names that a lot of people have heard of. We are going to give Miami a tackle here. Maybe they can kick one of the tackles that are playing right now down to guard. They need a guard. They need a tackle. They need cornerback help. Let's get one of the big boys up front for the Miami Dolphins. Protect Tua. Miami goes Irsay, the tackle out of Miami here at pick 12. leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock. Team needs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers: wide receiver, edge rusher, defensive tackle, tight end, and interior offensive line. I think there's an edge rusher that we can pair up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's kind of fallen right to the Buccaneers. Let's talk about, and that is where we are going to go. This is a player PFF is very, very high on, and for him to be here at pick 13 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've got him as the 10th best prospect in this class. 24 hurries on the season. That's after 28 last year. He also has 4 sacks and 8 sacks in 2023. So this is what Tampa Bay needs. They need some pressure. They need an edge rusher. Let's go to Texas A&M. Grab this kid for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at pick 13, Nick Scoutron. They needed a tight end and a cornerback as well, like Cade Otton. We can address CB in round 2 for Tampa Bay. Chicago's on the clock at pick 14. They had the number 1 pick last year, thanks to the Carolina Panthers. They're not going to take a quarterback. Caleb Williams is safe, but they've got to protect Caleb. So here we go. The team needs for the Chicago Bears: interior O-line. They need a tackle. They need a center. They need cornerback help, and they need a linebacker. You know we're not taking a linebacker this high. Tackle position is still nice. Interior O-line and the center spot, pretty good. Let's see what we can cook up for the Chicago Bears. Right, it's my time to shine. Let's go to Texas. I love this kid out of Texas. Let's give him right to the Chicago Bears. Help protect Caleb Williams. Cam Williams out of Texas. They got 2 bookend tackles, Banks and Williams. I do believe both of these guys will be first-round picks in the 2025 NFL Draft. Chicago's got to do everything in their power to make sure that Caleb Williams is protected. Let's protect him with Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams protecting Caleb Williams in 2025. Let's go. So here are the Indianapolis Colts team needs. You got tight end, safety, QB, edge rusher, and cornerback being 5 of the needs for the Indianapolis Colts. They're not going to replace Anthony Richardson just yet, so we're going to cross QB off this list. But I do think one of the things that is missing in this Indianapolis offense that Shane Steichen had for a young Jalen Hurts when they were trying to get him to progress and trying to figure out if he was going to be the quarterback of the future for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's an easy button. There are no easy buttons right now for Anthony Richardson, and by easy button, I mean tight end. Jalen Hurts had Dallas Goedert when he was starting to come into his own. Get this young man some short underneath help. Big target for a quarterback that you know might not be as accurate. Saw Lamar Jackson find success with his Mark Andrews. Let's get Anthony Richardson, his version of Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, and I got just the player for you. You can go back to some of my 2024 NFL draft takes, and I was screaming for the Indianapolis Colts to select Jatavian Sanders, the tight end out of Texas. That did not happen, but this year, we've got another freak tight end coming in, and he's not Brock Bowers, but man, he's damn close. Tyler Warren out of Penn State, 89.0 PFF grade, 80 targets, 808 yards receiving for a tight end in college this season. This is double what he did last season, 5 touchdowns, and he runs the ball. This is a big dude. 6'6", 260 pounds, 31 on PFF's board. He is my tight end 1 in this class. I think he is a dominant tight end from day one. He can block, he can run, he's fast, he's athletic. Tyler Warren in Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson would be such a damn good fit. Tyler Warren, Anthony Richardson, top 15 pick. Let's go. Seattle's on the clock, and some of their team needs: tackle, interior offensive line, D tackle, linebacker, and cornerback. There are a couple of tackles left on the board that I think would be really good fits here in Seattle. They invested in that position a couple of years ago. Abe Lucas, Charles Cross banged up this year. It hasn't helped Geno Smith. You got to protect Geno, who should be the quarterback next year. Let's look for some offensive line help for the Seahawks. West Virginia's got a big offensive tackle, Wyatt Millam, who is 6'6", 317 pounds, 91 PFF grade on the season. No sacks given up in his entire career. No sacks in every single game that he's played. Only 1 QB hit and 5 hurries on the season. This just sounds like a dominant tackle. You look at his PFF grades this season, incredible. So for a player like this to land in Seattle, if he is all of that, this would be a good pick for the Seattle Seahawks to improve that offensive line. Wyatt Millam from West Virginia lands in Seattle at pick 16. Now up at pick 17, we got the LA Rams, Sean McVay and the high-flying Rams. They did a good job last year getting Braden Fisk and Jared Verse out of Florida State. What do they do to continue to improve this team here in 2025? Well, this article says the Rams still need to invest in this defense. Safety, linebacker, corner, center, and interior offensive line being some of the biggest team needs for the Rams. So let's hit the board and see what they can do. You know, I'm normally not a big proponent of drafting safeties extremely high unless you've got an Earl Thomas, Sean Taylor, Ed Reed, Kyle Hamilton level player. I believe Malachi Starks is just that. Malachi Starks started as a true freshman at Georgia. You see what he's done on the season, 40 tackles. He's good in run defense. He can rush the passer. He can do just about everything. Malachi Starks is an incredible safety, an incredible defensive field general, and I think in the NFL he's going to be a damn good safety. Malachi Starks to the Los Angeles Rams at pick 17. There you go. Rams house getting Malachi Starks, definitely going to be a field general on the back end. And now the San Francisco 49ers on their clock at pick 18. Let's look at some of their biggest team needs. Defensive tackle, center, cornerback, edge rusher, and linebacker. All positions that the 49ers need to replenish. Dre Greenlaw toward the Achilles in the Super Bowl. They did sign Diamonor Lenore to a big deal, and Renardo Green, their rookie cornerback, is playing very well as well. So I think we'll leave cornerback off of this. But D-tackle, you got to take some pressure off of Nick Bosa on the edge, and interior offensive line, always something teams can improve upon. This is a spot here in a class where a lot of people who don't think it's an elite draft class, you just kind of go get your player. I do think this is a spot for a player like Jalen Walker to come off the board. Again, linebackers don't typically go extremely high, but we're here at pick 18 right now. We saw Jack Campbell get selected inside the top 15 picks. This dude is an absolute monster. Walker at 6'2", close to 250 pounds, is a thumper. He can run, and one of those captains and leaders of that Georgia teams. When we watch him and Mykel Williams run around, Malachi Starks on the back end, Jalen Walker going to follow in the similar footsteps of great Georgia linebackers in the past. PFF has him ranked as the 13th overall prospect. San Francisco 49ers upgrade that position right now to help improve that defense with plenty of offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen that they can draft a little bit later. Jalen Walker out of Georgia, you are a San Francisco 49er at pick 18. At pick 19, the Denver Broncos are on the clock. Let's see what their biggest team needs are. The Denver Broncos hit a home run with quarterback Bo Nix out of Oregon last year, but they got to upgrade the center position. They need some more running back help, need some receiver help, they need tight end help, and they need an edge rusher in Denver. But this is all about Bo Nix, developing Bo Nix, making sure he continues to play comfortable in Sean Payton's offense. And you know, when Payton and Breeze had it cooking, they had a dope tight end named Jimmy Graham. And I think this is a great spot for another tight end to come off of the board for the Broncos. Tyler Warren out of Penn State is my QB1 is my tight end one in this NFL draft class, but the tight end position is just as loaded as the damn running backs. And Colston Loveland out of Michigan is going to be an awesome player. So Colston Loveland getting a chance to be that security blanket for Bo Nix. Love the fit, love the pick. I think it will work very well with Nix and Sean Payton in Denver. Colston Loveland, you are a Denver Bronco. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock at pick 20. Y'all know what it is, Falcons fans. Rise up. Y'all got to get some defensive help. You've got to be able to get after the quarterback. Sacks are non-existent in Atlanta. You've got to get sacks, and they need defensive back help. Edge rusher, D-tackle, corner, center, and linebacker, all team needs for the Atlanta Falcons. And I have y'all covered, Falcons fans. I have you covered and feeling good because Mykel Williams out of Georgia, you get to stay home, and you, sir, are going to be an Atlanta Falcon. 6'5", 265 pounds. If you've not seen Mykel Williams play, he is a disruptive force. Missed a little bit of time with injury, but this is a player that's to stay home in Georgia, get after the quarterback. Mykel Williams at pick 20, kind of a gift for the Falcons. This would be a great pick for Atlanta. Mykel Williams, pick 20 to the Atlanta Falcons. At 21, we've got the Arizona Cardinals. They need D-tackle, cornerback, edge rusher help, offensive tackle help, interior O-line help my offensive line, help Kyler Murray. But let's help the defensive side of the ball. Let's help the defensive side of the ball, and we've got to stop the quarterback. Ben Morrison is still on the board. Let's take a look at the CB. So we've got Ben Morrison, PFF's number 19th ranked player right now, still on the board. But I want to take a look at some of the other cornerback prospects. There are quite a few. Trey Amos out of Mississippi. I like him a lot. Where is, they got Takario Davis down there at 114 out of Arizona. Got some nice cornerbacks in that class. Zy Alexander can play. Siobhan Revel can play out of East Carolina. I know a lot of people are pumping him up. But right here, to be able to land Ben Morrison at pick 21 for the Arizona Cardinals, I think they would run to the bank selecting this pick. So the Arizona Cardinals go defensive back Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, leaving the Washington Commanders here on the clock at pick 22. They hit a home run with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels last year. Dan Quinn brought over some priority free agents, Tyler Biadasz, Austin Eckler. All of them are playing well, and they traded for Marshawn Lattimore at the draft. So they do need safety help. They do need cornerback help. Matter of fact, let's pull it up. You got tackle, safety, cornerback, another receiver to complement Jaden Daniels, and offensive line. Offensive tackle, defensive tackle. They lost some players for the season due to injury. It's a good spot for the Washington Commanders to be in. They are got a lot of directions that they can. And much like the Denver Broncos want to continue to surround their young quarterback with playmakers, making sure Bo Nix is confident and comfortable, I do believe that Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury are going to do the same thing for Jaden Daniels. Now, which wide receiver do they prioritize? Because that is what we're going to do. They are going to take a wide receiver. You got Luther Burden on the board, ranked number 9. You've got Emeka Egbuka, Isaiah Bond, and Xavier Restrepo. I think that at this spot, having Terry McLaurin on the field, getting Jaden Daniels an easy target to get some underneath stuff to that can move. He's a dynamic athlete. He's not right now as developed as a downfield wide receiver threat, but he's a playmaker. And I think the Washington Commanders want to surround Jaden Daniels with playmakers. Luther Burden, let's sign us up for the Washington Commanders. Luther Burden goes number 22 overall to be paired up with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, Ben Sinnott, Zach Ertz, Brian Robinson, and Austin Eckler, giving more firepower to one of the top scoring teams in the NFL, the Washington Commanders. At pick 23, the Houston Texans are on the clock. They need a lot of help. Up front. Joe Mixon running like a madman. What are the Houston Texans going to do here at pick 23? Let's take a look at their team needs. Houston, interior O-line, defensive tackle, linebacker, safety, and edge rusher. That are what the Houston Texans need according to the scouts over at Bleacher Report. And I think we can appease some of the Houston Texans fans because there's still some very good defensive tackles on the board, very good edge rushers on the board. Let's take a look at the mock draft tool and see what we've got for Houston. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan makes a ton of sense for the Houston Texans right here. A big body to plug the middle. You've got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on the outside. Let's find a big boy that can kind of take some of that pressure off of those edge players. Kenneth Grant, 6'3", 340 pounds. You also got a big boy out of Kentucky that can clog the middle as well. But right here, I think Kenneth Grant, 25th overall on PFF's board. You plug him in the middle of that D'Amico Ryans-led defense with those two bookend guys on the outside. You've got your secondary, Lassiter, Singletary, Stingley. You got Petrie on the back end, Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Plug him in the middle, help those defenders thrive on the edge. Houston Texans, Kenneth Grant at 23. All right, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock at pick 24, and Baltimore is balling offensively. Lamar doing his thing, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, top 5 in the league in receiving. Offensive line holding up. Lamar not getting sacked as much this year. But defensively, they're giving up way too many points. Way too many points. Very uncharacteristic of a Baltimore Ravens team. You look at some of their team needs. Interior offensive line, cornerback, edge rusher, tackle, wide receiver. They have Justin Matabuke doing his thing in the middle on the interior. Where could this team go right now? I think edge rusher is the spot. Shamar Stewart, a big body defensive end out of Texas A&M. He's about 290 pounds, 6'6", 290. You put him on the edge. They got Nate Wiggins, the cornerback, so I don't feel like they have to take cornerback right here at pick 24. I actually would have loved them to trade back. But Shamar Stewart, 6'6", 290-pound edge rusher out of Texas A&M. You are a Baltimore Raven. The Los Angeles Chargers, you are on the clock at pick 25. Jim Harbaugh making it happen in his first year in LA with Justin Herbert and co. Team needs for the Chargers: wide receiver, defensive tackle, interior O-line, edge rusher, and cornerback. These are all positions that the Chargers need. Ladd McConkey coming on well, but they still probably need somebody else. I like QJ a little bit. D-tackle, they can definitely upgrade their interior O-line and getting after the quarterback. But right now, I don't see that many edge rushers that I feel good about. So let's have a little fun here with LAC. I think this is a prime spot for them to draft a wide receiver. Jim Harbaugh getting his guy, Justin Herbert, another body, another option, another complement to Lad McConkey, who does a lot of the underneath stuff. You got QJ over the top. Can you find another wide receiver that can be a complement to what Lad McConkey brings you? And I do think that Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, who I have currently is my wide receiver 4 in this class, would make a ton of sense playing next to Justin Herbert. If Colston Loveland were available or Tyler Warren here at 25, I do think the Chargers would be in prime territory to land one of those tight ends. But with them off of the board, they get a very, very good sort of power possession wide receiver in Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. Green Bay is on the clock at pick 26. Team needs for the Packers: center, edge rusher, cornerback, defensive tackle, and linebacker. So those are the 5 positions of team need. Let's see what we can do for Green Bay here. And while the name may be small schoolish, do not let that dissuade you from Siobhan Revel's game at the cornerback position at East Carolina. Just think of Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. Like, going into the process, a lot of people didn't know who he was or didn't quite understand the conference and would it translate. And you look at Quinyon Mitchell right now, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL as a rookie. This kid right here out of East Carolina can freaking go get it. He's a big, big corner, 6'3", almost 200 pounds. You put him on this defense that has Jair Alexander, and they've got a rookie safety that's balling the hell out right now. Like, Green Bay really tooling up that secondary, getting another potential shutdown type cornerback to pair with Jair Alexander. This would be a nice fit for the Green Bay Packers. Siobhan Revel out of East Carolina, you are a Green Bay Packer. Steelers are on the clock at pick 27. In Pittsburgh, they need a tackle, interior offensive line, as they always do. They took Fatanu last year out of Washington, Broderick Jones out of Georgia the year before. Wide receiver, they could definitely upgrade that position. Cornerback and defensive tackle help with Cam Hayward getting a little bit older. So let's see what we can do to make this Steelers team even better. Now, I'm not quite sure if this player actually declares here in 2025, but when you think about the offense that Pittsburgh has, they thought Roman Wilson would be something. He hasn't played all season. It was a 3rd-round pick. You got George Pickens coming into his own, and they continue to try to use Calvin Austin in ways for his explosiveness. Well, let's go get an explosive wide receiver out of Texas. Isaiah Bond out of Texas would pair very well with George Pickens, and Russell Wilson likes to throw the deep ball. You get a different type of receiver than George Pickens. Isaiah Bond, his speed in Pittsburgh would probably be a really nice team fit. Love this pick right here. Isaiah Bond to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And at 28, I love this. Minnesota fans, I love this for you. I love this for your team, and I love head coach Kevin O'Connell. Team needs for Minnesota: interior O-line, defensive tackle, cornerback, running back. Those are all positions in need for the Minnesota Vikings. If Minnesota gets here to this spot and this player is on the board, there's nothing to even talk about. 4th overall, according to PFF, Ashton Jeanty, come on down. You are a Minnesota Viking, and my goodness, J.J. McCarthy, T.J. Hawkinson, Ashton Jeanty, Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson. Say less, fam. Say less. Minnesota Vikings probably doing a party dance in the street to get Ashton Jeanty at pick 28. And I am not anti-RB. I love RBs, but you just don't draft them inside the top 10. And in this year's class in particular, 2025, the running backs are loaded. The Hamptons, the Calebs, the Ollies, the Woodies, they're all going to be there and all going to be contributors at the next level. Ashton Jeanty at pick 28 makes a ton of sense for the Minnesota Vikings. Philly is now on the clock. Let's take a look at what Philly needs. The Philadelphia Eagles, their team needs edge rushers, interior O-line, center, tackle, and a 3rd wide receiver to complement A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Those are the team needs for Philly. Let's pull up the board and see what they could do. I've been talking about them for a couple of picks now. Philly's going to go to Georgia. Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, offensive guard, coming off of the board to help this offensive line, help that tush push, help Saquon Barkley, help Jalen Hurts. The whole goal is to continue to keep that offensive line humming. No edge rushers I'm going to take right here at pick 29. Let's opt for guard. This is another spot where I can see Philly pushing back for a team that wants to jump up to grab maybe one of these developmental quarterbacks in the draft, which leads us to our last 3 picks: the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Detroit Lions. Let's talk about Buffalo and what they need first. Edge rusher. They got to get somebody to replace Von Miller soon. Cornerback, safety, linebacker, and D tackle. Defense for the Buffalo Bills. So when we look at the defensive side of the board, I really do like Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. This is a player where you look at him, 6'7", 280 pounds. This dude is big. 21 hurries on the season, 6 sacks. That's following 7 sacks last year, 8 QB hits, 3 batted passes. He's a monster out there on the defensive side of the ball. Got to play in the SEC. Landon Jackson, come on down. You are going to Buffalo as a Buffalo Bill at pick 30. Kansas City's on the clock, and you see PFF say they need a tight end, a tackle, and a running back. Probably not in round 1. Not going to do that for Kansas City this year. Let's take a look at some of the other needs that Kansas City might have. Team needs, according to the scouts over at Bleacher Report: receiver, cornerback, defensive tackle, tackle help, and safety help. And yes, their tackles need some work. So let's take a look at that position and see if we can help Patrick Mahomes and co. Blake Miller, another big tackle, 6'6", 315 pounds. And he's playing well, helping protect Cade Klubnik. Let's get Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City some tackle help, seeing as the edge rushers right now. Don't want to take one here around 1 again. This is a spot once you get to the 20s, 26, 27, 28, where Kansas City is, where trade downs are probably going to happen like crazy. And that is a spot at 31 where you see Kansas City historically move out of that spot. They've got no problem trading back once you're there. So at the final pick, the Detroit Lions, let's take a look at what they need and who they can fill that need with. Team needs for the Detroit Lions: cornerback, edge rusher, wide receiver, tackle, and interior O-line. They need another receiver just in case J-Mo's acting silly again. Edge rusher, with Aiden Hutchinson out, they brought in Zadarius Smith, but they're probably going to be very aggressive in free agency and the draft to fill that need. But I think right here, wide receiver is where I want to take a look at. So let's pull up the board and see what's left. So as we look through the wide receiver position, there's still a bunch of good ones left that are on the board. Kyron Lacey out of LSU, Xavier Restrepo. But Trey Harris is where I want to focus in on because he's a different type of receiver than what's already there in Detroit. You look at Harris on the season, 74 targets, almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6'3", 210 pounds, big-bodied wide receiver. Pair him up with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Pair him up with Jameson Williams. And here you go. The first round, Hunter, Sanders, Cam Ward, Will Campbell, and Will Johnson are the top 5 picks, followed by Kelvin Banks, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, Tedoror McMillan out of Arizona, and Josh Simmons out of Ohio State at pick 10. The Bengals go James Pierce at 11. The Miami Dolphins take The Miami Dolphins at pick 12 go offensive tackle Irsay out of Minnesota. Nick Scoutron, the defensive end out of Texas A&M, goes pick 13. Caleb Williams gets help with Cameron Williams, the tackle out of Texas, at 14. Tyler Warren catching passes from Anthony Richardson at 15, tight end out of Penn State. Wyatt Millam, the tackle out of West Virginia, has not given up a sack in his career, going to protect Geno Smith's blind side. Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia at pick 17. Georgia again at 18 with Jalen Walker, the linebacker, going to San Francisco. Bo Nix gets Michigan tight end Colston Loveland to help the offense out. Georgia edge rusher Mykel Williams comes off the board, staying home with the Atlanta Falcons at 20. Ben Morrison, corner Notre Dame, to the Cardinals at 21. Luther Burden, wide receiver, to help out Jaden Daniels out of Missouri at 22. Kenneth Grant, interior defensive lineman out of Michigan. He goes 23 to the Houston Texans. Shamar Stewart at 24 to the Texas A&M. Shamar Stewart at 24 from Texas A&M goes to Baltimore. Emeka Egbuka at 25 to the Chargers. Siobhan Revel out of Eastern Carolina, 26 to Green Bay. Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas, goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 27. Ashton Jeanty, the all-world running back, goes to the Minnesota Vikings at 28 as RB1 off of the board. Tate Ratledge, the Georgia guard, goes to the Philadelphia Eagles to improve that offensive line. Landon Jackson, the big edge, to Buffalo. Blake Miller, tackle out of Clemson, goes to Kansas City. And Trey Harris, wide receiver from Mississippi, going to the Detroit Lions. There it is. That's the show. All 32 picks with the team needs and fits based on the scouts over at Bleacher Report. Link to that article is in the description of this video. You stuck around to the end, you found the information actionable and hopefully entertaining. Subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, comment below, let me know what you think about the picks and the players, and I'll see y'all next week for the same thing. Mock Draft 2.0. I'm out of this thing. Peace.